Uncle Ron stuff. Today's episode is about repair or replace. This is a decision that I get into quite a bit. Um, I understand for most people it's always a replace. They do not know what's wrong with the item. It doesn't work in some fashion or form. And they do not know how to take it to any place. They don't know where it can be repaired. If it's under warranty, you know, always keep your materials whenever you buy something so you know how long the warranty extends. And if it's under warranty, you can make a claim and maybe get some relief that way. But most people do not know or have to deal with repair versus replace, except perhaps for a car. And car repairs can get rather expensive, and you get into that point, do I want to put any more money into the car, or should I consider just buying a new car? For the economics, I got to pay for the repair in cash, but I can borrow money to buy a new car. But there are decisions about repair versus replace. In my case, I always try to examine what is wrong with the item and see if it can be repaired. I'm of a mindset that if you own something, you should know something about it. I don't care what it is, whether it's your home AC, your cars, any kind of appliance you have, your TVs, your internet, your computers, that you should know something about it. It should not just be a total appliance, you know, a black box. It does a function, and that's all you care about. I think you should know a little more than that about it. There are plenty of resources available on the internet to research anything. So I have a mindset to do repair over replace. And I have the tools and I have some skill sets I've learned. So I can take something apart and try to determine what is the cause of the problem and can I repair it? Or more, can I cost effectively repair it and have some good confidence level that whatever item I replace in there is going to fix the problem and it will stay fixed for some reasonable period of time. But that is a decision. Again, most people understand. They don't attempt to take apart anything. They don't know how to take apart anything. So for them, it's usually just to replace. It is aggravating to me that the landfills are full of items that have a 10-cent defective part in it, and instead of being repaired, it was thrown away. It's also a rant to me that lots of devices are meant as throwaway devices. They are not meant to be repaired. They're difficult to get into. In fact, cars have gotten somewhat like that. If you talk to an auto mechanic, they'll say they were meant to be assembled quickly but not repaired later. And to do this fix or that fix, you got to take off all this stuff to get to that one part. So that's an irritant. It's like their culture is a throwaway culture. You use it and if something goes bad, you trash it. I don't like that kind of mentality. Eventually we're going to have to do something about that. Years ago I was at a meeting, a conference, and some British folks were there. We're having lunch and we're using paper plates and plastic knives and forks. And when we got all done, of course, we threw them in the trash, and the Brits were saying, I can't believe how much you guys throw away. We would have had dishes and cups and they would have been washed and used again. And it highlighted out to me that is somewhat a mentality that has emerged, partly because of the mass production of items, and they're made as quickly and as cheaply as possible, and therefore not meant to be repaired. And the whole mom and pop repair shop that used to be around has now gone. It's just cost effectiveness I'm going to give you an example in a minute. I have a microwave oven here over on the counter. Or another example I just recently posted was I had some hoverboards in from my grandsons, and I could get into them, and I'm pretty sure the lithium battery is bad in them, and that's a $65 part. And they also need new chargers and that's another $25. And here's a case where you can buy a whole new hoverboard for $100, $150. And to me, that makes more sense. I'm only 85% confident that it's a lithium-ion battery problem, okay? I could buy that battery, put it in, get a new charger, and it still not work because there are circuit boards in there. One of them could have got bad. I don't have that level of technical knowledge to be able to, or could I ever even find one of the circuit boards? I could find the battery. The likelihood of finding a circuit board that would go in there is slim to none. And you run into that if you're going to try to repair anything. The parts knowledge is scattered here and yon, and one part that says it'll fit will not. So you got this whole issue. Do I repair or replace? I always lean toward repairing if I possibly can. But there are times, and the skateboard, the hoverboard was one of them, it made no sense to invest another $80 into a board that's been used for 2 or 3 years when you can buy a brand new one which will last maybe 2 or 3 years. Again, it was designed to be a throwaway. It's too bad. It was not designed to be repaired by the user or probably anybody else. Okay. But I would like to encourage that at least you make an attempt to sort out. Good example that is lots of devices have fuses in them. They use, by Underwriters Laboratory, electrical devices are required to have a fuse in them. It didn't say a user replaceable fuse, but a fuse so it can't catch fire. Pulls too much current and it will blow the fuse, turns the device off. There are a lot of dead devices sitting around here and yon because they had a blown fuse in them. Now, fuses, yeah, that was their purpose, to keep from causing a fire or overheating. But sometimes the electrical power supplied to a house is not, the quality of it is iffy at best. You can have all sorts of noise and transients and voltage spikes. Voltage can range from 115 to 130 when it should be 125 or whatever. That's sort of the standard, but it can roam through that range, and some circuits just aren't designed to take that, so they pop the fuse. As I said, most devices have, required by law to have a fuse in them. At one time, everything had fuse holder on the back. You could literally unscrew it, look at the fuse, you could actually look at it and see it was bad. You could find a replacement for that fuse without too much difficulty, put it in and try it. If it kept blowing fuses, obviously you'd have a problem, but a lot of times a new fuse would take care of the problem. But because it didn't specifically say for user replacement, a lot of fuses are now internal to a device, so you have to take the covers off of them to get to them. Sometimes they're soldered on the circuit board. Sometimes they're wired right between 2 wires that have been soldered or touched or welded. But there are fuses inside of every electrical device somewhere. And in the case over here on the microwave that I'm looking at, yes, there are 2 fuses inside. One is a small fuse that runs some control voltage. The other fuse is much larger because it carries higher voltage. Both are replaceable, user replaceable. You can get them. They're not on the outside chassis. But if you take the cover off, you can get to these fuses. And they're standard, you can buy them anywhere, fuses. But most people would not even attempt that. With getting the cover off in itself, when it's been made to never be disassembled by a user, it's made to be a throwaway product, can be a hassle. I usually go through that process to make sure there's not a 10-cent part causing the problem. In the case of the microwave, I'm just about to the point to say it's a throwaway, as much as I hate to. I've gone inside, I've seen the fuses, both fuses are good. There is a ribbon cable, and lots of stuff now have ribbon cables in electronics where one sort of control element is connected to another. And an example of that is a circuit board that has a ribbon cable and comes up to an LED display or some kind of display. And the display is a separate entity, the board is a separate entity, and to connect the two you have a ribbon cable. Ribbon cables often can come out. They were not attached very well to start with. In transit, they can get loose. They get corroded over time because the air has moisture and dirt in it. The contacts are very thin, they're not gold plated, and they don't make good connections anymore. So a lot of times it's just a ribbon cable. And I will try to reseat the ribbon cable if I can find one, and I know it's in the circuit that I'm thinking about. In the case of the microwave here, no, the keypad on the front is not responding correctly, and it is a sealed keypad, keyboard, and right to it is a control board, and then off the control board is a ribbon cable going up to the actual display on the outside of the microwave. Now I've checked all of the fuses, I've checked the ribbon cable, I've checked the umpteen switches, because microwaves have lots of switches in them when you open the door, when you close the door, and so on. I cannot find I don't see any evidence of trauma. There is no burning, there's no scorching, there's no blown capacitors and beings. They're all swollen and out of shape, nothing like that. If I look and try to find a new control board for it, I can, and they're about $100. But you can buy a brand new one of these things for $100. Or you can go to a thrift store and buy a reasonable facsimile of a microwave in the same size and wattage, probably for $30 used. Will it last forever? Who knows? It may go for a year, it may go for a millennium. But repair or replace. Now, if I get ready to junk this microwave, I'll take it to the recycle center, and it'll probably go in the metal pile because it's mainly metal, and they will recycle that, so it's not a complete landfill item. The skateboards or hoverboards that I did, I suspect they'll go in the metal pile as well. They will not get buried in something, and they can't be burnt, so it's either recycle, bury, or burn it when it comes to trash. The shipping stuff overseas has significantly been reduced in the last number of years because of the economies of that. So anyway, there's always a decision, and if you can get the parts, and sometimes I can get the parts really cheap and it makes sense. Other times I can't get the parts and it doesn't make sense. I'll give you another example of repair over replace, and that is I have some lawn equipment that has tubeless tires on them, and they're always going flat. There has no tube inside of a rubber wheel, and the seal on the rubber wheel doesn't hold well against the metal rim, actual wheel. And so my solution to that is they now make solid wheels to go on as things that never need air pumped up, and it was merely a rehab. That's not a repair really, that's just an upgrade. I'm going away from the old tubeless tires and going to go to a solid tire, which I never have to put up again, and makes it easy to move around. Repair over replace. It's again, a lot of people don't even have that question, except maybe on a big appliance or a car. If your refrigerator goes out, what are you going to do? You don't know anything about refrigerators, and everybody will tell you just have to replace it. That's not necessarily true. A good repairman could get it back running again. It probably has a leak, and he could add some ports to the coiling, and he could clean it out, recharge it, and up and going. The price of that, probably $350. Brand new refrigerator, they're getting pretty expensive. They could be $3-4 grand now, so it might be worthwhile. But where do you find a repairman that can do that? That's part of the problem. Or repairmen, they consider their expertise to be such skilled labor. For example, on your air conditioning system, it is real common for a repairman to come out and say, you just need a whole new system. Your system could be 10, 12 years old. That's the life of the system. You should get a new high efficiency. And we can sell you one for $4 grand installed. Most appliances, which they have a life to them, I've forgotten the term. There's an economic term, durable goods that have a extended life lifespan. They can go 15, 20, 30 years if they're maintained. And they can be maintained. There's not that much in an HVA system, quite honestly. There's only so many components. The major problem you always run into is coolant leaks. But all the other parts are available. All the other parts, the price can be, okay, I have to put $500 board in. Is it worthwhile to do that because my AC is 20 years old? I'm still in the mindset that it is, because all the other parts are still functioning. And you can still get part replaced, any of those smaller components and cheaper components. I've rambled around and really haven't hit the nail on the head of what I'm trying to impact here, except I lean toward repair. I know enough about an item to take it open and make sure it isn't some 10-cent part that's causing the problem. I do not want to throw anything away because a very small component or a user error has caused the problem. And I have run into equipment where they have sort of a child-proof lock built into the keypads for a washing machine or a dryer or something like that. Somebody pushes the wrong sequence of keypads, the machine won't respond to the keyboard anymore. Oh, it's broken. No. If you look in your documentation, somebody inadvertently hit the child lock sequence, and it won't allow any user to use that keypad. You have to know the unlock sequence, and I've seen more of that occurring in various appliances. Child lock's not a bad idea. It's just most people don't know that it's built into the system, and therefore inadvertently wind up setting it and then do not know how to unset it. So again, it's back to you should know something about whatever you own, be whatever it is, and at least get away from scrapping something or replacing something simply because a wrong set of keys were pushed. Or they always tell you, make sure you have it plugged into the wall. You would think that would be common knowledge, but apparently it isn't. I did have a case years ago where I had a speaker go bad, and I couldn't get it to do whatever. And so I looked up and I found a company on web that would, what I thought was bad with it, which I could not repair, crossover circuits inside. And so I pulled that circuit out and sent it to this repair guy. And he looked at it and said, there's nothing wrong with it. I said, okay, well, it doesn't work here. And he sent it back to me, no charge. I put it back in, still no sound. So I finally pulled everything away, all apart. I mean, this is crazy. It's only wires coming from an amplifier going to the speaker. How can I not have sound? I didn't realize that mice will chew through speaker wire. And that was the problem I had all along, and I had made an assumption that the wire would never go bad. Wire is wire. How can it go bad? But mice had chewed through it, so it wasn't making a connection. There's where I know about stuff, but I made a bad assumption. That's another issue that you can get into when you're trying to figure out replace versus repair. You make some assumptions. You make a lot of assumptions sometimes about, well, I can't fix it, I can't deal with it, I don't have any tools, or it's impossible that some appliances have a fuse right in the plug that goes under the wall. There isn't, again, UL requires fusing on electrical devices to get plugged into outlets, but it didn't say where they have to be or if they're user replaceable. Some have a fuse right in that plug. If you don't know enough about that appliance, you may miss that, and the whole thing's not working simply because of a small fuse right in the plug, which is a hassle to get out and find, of course, but you'll throw it away because the whole thing's not working, and I don't know what to do. It's plugged in, not working. Who do I call to repair this? Nobody. What do I do with it? Trash it. That's enough of this. Anyway, I do run into repair versus replace, and it comes in a matter of cost. If it's going to cost too much and I'm not really 100% comfortable it's going to fix the problem, I decide not to do it. That's another issue of repair versus replace. do not randomly start replacing parts thinking that's the one. You should be real comfortable that the part you think you want to replace is in fact the one causing the problem. And you go, well, how do I do that? I don't have a good answer on that. Sometimes between 2 or 3 different parts, I will have to make an educated guess because I don't have the technical skills or the equipment to diagnose any lower. But the idea is that don't randomly start replacing parts. This is particularly true on cars. There are a lot of sensors, there are lots of things in there. You think it's this, you think it's that, and it turns out that you can replace that and it still not take care of the problem, and you don't want to be doing that. So learn something about what you own, at least where it has its fuses or if they're replaceable, and the possibility of a child lock from a keypad. You can look in the owner's manual and it'll tell you. Those sorts of attributes, so you don't wind up burying out in wherever they bury this stuff some big old appliance that you paid $200 for, and now you have to pay another $200 or even more for the same item because it had some minor user repairable sort of fix, like checking a fuse and the line cord. I'm having trouble holding myself and together here, so it's time to go. This is Uncle Ron's stuff. Today is it's already the 28th of July. That's amazing. 2025. I hope you have a good day and hope this records.